Good morning, everybody. I think it is still just about morning. As Professor Seifert said, I run a not-for-profit organisation, and what we do is advise some of the world's biggest brands, people like HP, Vodafone, Unilever, and we use futures to try and help them work out what's going to come and how they can prosper in a sustainable world, but also how they can create it. And we've just finished earlier this year a big project called Megacities on the Move, looking at how people will live in these megacities and how they will travel in 2040, which we did with Vodafone, Embark, and others. And I'm going to draw on some of the findings of that in my talk. So, what do we know about the future? And as a futurist, clearly we cannot know exactly what the future holds. That's impossible. But we can know that there are certain trends with such inbuilt momentum in them that they're pretty likely, almost certain to happen. And we've heard about these trends, I think, quite a lot in the last 3 days. We know we'll all be living in cities in the future. And indeed, with what's happening in China and India, we're seeing the biggest rural-urban migration in the history of humankind. We know that this growing population in our world, 3.5 billion when I was born, 7 billion today, rising to 9.5 billion by mid-century, is going to put incredible pressure on those resources, food, water, and fuel that we need as a species to survive. And we know that overlaying all of this will be climate change and the implications of living in a warming world, but also the policy responses to climate change. And just to kind of give one example on climate change, lots of engineers in the room, you know that one of the impacts of a warming world will be that water in the world will expand and sea level will rise. We also know that we can expect many more extreme weather events as a result of climate change. And then think, where during the course of human history have we built all our major settlements and cities? On low-lying land next to water. So we've got these trends, these interlocking big mega trends that we've been discussing over the last couple of days. How are we responding to them? Well, as we've heard last night and today, I think there's some amazing responses already coming through from the industry, from urban planners and so on. And, you know, really like some of the things that are going on. Loved in particular Buzzcar and what it's going to do. But I guess I would characterize overall the response of the industry, of urban planners and so on, as this idea that I call smart everything. That somehow we're going to have intelligent driving, intelligent building, we're going to have a smart grid, smart cities, IBM even promising us a smarter planet. And somehow that smart everything is going to be the solution to our problems. And we know from the kind of future that we were discussing and hearing about from Orange, we know in the future that intelligence is going to be ubiquitous. It's going to be embedded in everything. Sensors will be so cheap that they will be everywhere and in everything, overlaying our physical reality and mediating our experience with reality. And from an environmental sustainability point of view, that intelligence that's ubiquitous, that's everywhere, offers us some real opportunities. It offers us an opportunity to measure and manage resource use way more efficiently. Because you think of the richness of the data that we have will allow us to manage energy and resource use and how our cities function in real time in ways that deliver huge sustainability benefits. That ubiquitous information will allow us to dematerialize. We'll be able to move whole sections of the economy and value and wealth from physical things into virtual things. And we already know the story of what's happened to record stores being replaced by MP3 players, but we also see telepresencing now increasingly beginning to replace transport. So as we dematerialize, as we become digital, we'll have much less impact on the environment. And we know that this rich amount of information will also allow us to integrate things seamlessly, integrate the individual with modes of transport with each other, and then with the buildings and the city around them. Again, with huge potential benefits for us as individuals and our quality of life, but also for the environment. So this innovation, and there's a wealth of innovation going on, offers huge potential benefits. And at Forum for the Future, we're working on lots of this with lots of organisations, businesses and cities around the world. Huge potential. But despite all this innovation, I still worry. And my worries centre, I guess, around three particular clusters of issues. And in this second part of my talk, that's what I want to focus in on, these three issues. The first is this issue of rebound and displacement. There's a real risk that we get much more efficient at doing individual things, but at the same time generate a greater overall environmental impact. Lots of you are engineers in the audience. You'll remember from your university textbook days the Jevons paradox, that actually, as we get more efficient at using resources, we often end up paradoxically using lots more of them. As an environmentalist, we look at displacement and rebound effects. We did a big study for a major telecoms company, not Orange, which looked at home working and remote working, and the huge promises that have been made about home working and remote working. Yes, they're enormous if you measure the impacts for the companies in their office and real estate saving, but the displacement effects of that individual worker now heating their whole house at home as they sit there and work, or the trips that they make during the day to run errands from their home instead of picking stuff up on the way back from work, actually meant that there were rebound and displacement effects that drastically cut the supposed benefits of these developments. The other one is road space, and we've heard a lot about very intelligent management of road space, but if we really manage road space that intelligently, what's the likely outcome? The likely outcome for me is that more people will be using more parts of the road space for more parts of the day and night. So you'll have less congestion, but there's a very strong possibility, based on experience to date, that actually you'll have more road use, more car use, and more pollution as a result. So what I'm saying is that as we kind of develop these smart solutions, we need to make sure that we have alongside them demand constraint and policy to ensure demand constraint, so that as we get smarter in these individual ways of tackling our problems, we don't see an overall increase in our environmental impact. The second worry I have is what all this smart stuff and smart cities will mean for democracy and people's rights. And we think about these ubiquitous sensors. We think about intelligence being in everything, and that our companies and governments and so on will know everything about our movements, our energy use. They'll start to run everything for us in a sense and start to mediate that and control things, which will bring huge benefits, I think, in some, in environmental terms and often in quality of life terms. But what will it mean for individual freedom? The amount of data that people control and own. And I kind of worry that we're seeing a process of such rapid technological development. And, we heard from IBM that quote that we'll see more change in the next 10 years than in the past half a decade. Such rapid technological innovation that the ability of society to have a conversation about that technology and interact with it and make decisions about what of it actually wants is very limited. Somehow we can't innovate our social institutions and our ability to participate and comment and decide on technology quickly enough. And I think that's going to be a huge challenge, because we may wake up one day in a world that we didn't ask for. So I think we need to make sure that as we build these kind of complex systems and as we innovate this technology, we also think about innovating the platforms that allow people to participate, to make decisions about that technology, and for people, ordinary people, to have a say in what's coming and what's happening to them. And The third and final issue I worry about is one of resilience. I worry about resilience because if we do manage these systems to the nth degree, to kind of very finite degrees, and we start to rely for our very survival as humans and our functioning in these megacities in the future on this very complex micromanagement of these systems, what happens when the system fails? Okay? And the system will fail. And we've seen hints of that, of course, already in the global financial crisis, where very complexly and densely intertwined financial systems impacts in one part of the world spreading. And we do a bit of work, and I'm sure many of you do in the room, on complex system dynamics. And we know from complex system dynamics that an intervention in a particular area of the system can have a disproportionate impact on the rest of the system. We can see cascade effects happen that are extremely damaging for the functioning of the whole. So we do need to do this clever management, and we do need to make the most of the technology, but we also need to make sure that as we're developing this and as we're planning and as we're doing these smart cities, we're also planning for resilience, that we're doing distributed, decentralized systems that are resilient and can survive, and also that people can survive, in a sense, without the system if it goes down. So let me just sum up and conclude what I've been saying for you. We know we're going to be facing these enormous pressures, these mega trends that we've talked about of urbanization, of population, of climate change. We know also that being smarter, everything around smart cities and smart transport is going to deliver huge gains for us and really, really help us to tackle these problems of the future. But as we develop these smart cities and these smart solutions, in a sense, I think we need to be even smarter. We need to be even smarter around how we think about people participating and engaging with those technologies in their cities. We need to be smarter about how we think about designing for resilience. But above all, for me, as an environmentalist, we need to be smarter about thinking about the total environmental impact, because I think for most of these smart developments that we've seen over recent years and all the promise of digitalization and internet technology and new communication technology, actually all it's done is increase the total environmental impact on our planet. And we need to find ways to design taking the whole into account and making sure that our smart solutions reduce our total global footprint. Thank you.